his best-selling book, Same as Ever, Morgan Housel provides an interesting commentary on the relationship between money and happiness. He says, there's no such thing as objective wealth. Everything is relative, and mostly relative to those around you. The New York Times wrote a 2007 article with the title, For Silicon Valley Millionaires, Too Much is Never Enough. The Times interviewed Gary Kremen, founder of online dating site Match.com. At the time, Kremen was 43 years old and worth $10 million. He was one of the wealthiest people in the world, but in Silicon Valley, he felt like he was just another guy. Everyone around here looks at the people above them. You're nobody here with 10 million, Kremen said. The Times wrote that he worked 60 to 80-hour work weeks because he felt like he didn't have enough money to ease up. It's easy to look at Kremen's example and conclude, money doesn't buy happiness. But Housel, in his book Same as Ever, argues that the relationship between money and happiness is more complex than that. In Housel's words, money buys happiness in the same way drugs bring pleasure. Incredible if done right, dangerous if used to mask a weakness, and disastrous when no amount is enough. So then the question in my mind is, how do we get it right? Housel suggests that the answer lies in not letting your expectations grow faster than your circumstances. A large part of this can be achieved by avoiding the comparison trap. Today's world of social media makes it hard not to compare ourselves to other people. The trouble is that we see a carefully curated highlight reel where positives are embellished and negatives are hidden from view altogether. We see the cars other people drive, the homes they live in, the expensive schools they go to, and all of this makes us think, I want that. Why don't I have that? Why does she get it when I don't? It's easy to be envious of others, and we often view this envy as some kind of positive, as some kind of motivator of progress. Housel has an interesting take on progress. He says, you think you want progress, both for yourself and for the world, but most of the time, that's not actually what you want. What you want is a gap between what you expected and what actually happened. In other words, Housel suggests that happiness is not determined by progress. It's determined by the gap between expectations and reality. If you have more than you expect, you're happy. If you expect more than you have, you're unhappy. Both parts, what you have and what you expect, are equally important. But we tend to focus the majority of our attention on the first part, which is what we have. We spend most of our time trying to increase our wealth and income through striving for progress. And this is a worthwhile goal to pursue. But on the other side, we put a fraction of effort into changing our expectations as what we put into changing our circumstances. This makes little sense, both because the expectation side is equally important and because it can be so much more in our control. So coming back to the question at the start of the video then, what is the relationship between money and happiness? What have I learned from the book, Same as Ever? Here's my conclusion. If we constantly let our expectations outgrow our circumstances, then the amount of money we will need to be happy will always be 10% more than what we have. Getting the goalpost to stop moving is one of the hardest skills, and learning to manage expectations is the key to a happy life. I'll end this video with a quote from the book. Imagine a life where everything gets better, but you never appreciate it because your expectations rise faster than your circumstances. It's terrifying and almost as bad as a world where nothing gets better.